The question is, has Lexus gone completely nuts? Or is this something made from a genius mind? I don't know. I can make the case for both arguments here. We have three new concepts, but all of them called the Lexus LS concepts. We have the van, the micro concept, and then the sport coupe concept from LS. From Lexus of this in this Tokyo mobility show, and all of them has one thing is definitely clear. When you look at these designs, we are 100% moving away from this origami beautiful line flow design that we've seen from Lexus the last 10 years or so, and into a much more static product design like design from Lexus. And I think this is going to morph into production vehicles as well, which is pretty sad because I was always a fan of this Lexus design. It was a very unique styling from Lexus with the IS, the previous LS and the GS and all of these cars. They just looked beautiful. It had a lot of beautiful flowing surfaces in it, and these are pretty much the complete opposite to that. Before we jump in and go into Photoshop here, I want to hear your opinion. Do you think this is the right direction for Lexus to go in when it comes to, I'm talking about the exterior design here, when it comes to this more static design? Do you like this approach, or would you still want to see some more emotions in the design? I think you know what I think already. However, the interiors, if we look at the interiors of these vehicles, absolutely stunning looking material choices and the ambient feel, very calming Japanese with these louvered windows that you have on the van, for example. The interior is definitely a place that I feel like as a passenger, I would love to spend a lot of time inside of this vehicle. However, as a driver, I am not sure what's going on with these dual gauge cluster screens we have going on. So before we jump into Photoshop here, let's have a look at this Car Scoops article. Let's see what this is all about. The Lexus LS has just morphed into a bizarre six-wheeled minivan. Lexus unveiled 3 LS concepts, each featuring a radical new design. You have a sleek LS Coupe, previous a potential future luxury crossover. So none of these, if you can tell, none of these is a sedan. So I don't think the next LS is going to be a sedan. It's probably going to be some weird crossover whenever it goes into production. So it may spawn a production model. Last but not least, you have the LS Micro concept, which is a self-driving small little one-seater. The design, I don't know what to tell you. We're going to jump into Photoshop, dissect these designs in a minute. But the design is definitely very radical. So Lexus is clearly evaluating several ways to keep the LS badge alive. And here we have the interior. What is this? What is going on? We have one screen behind the main screen. We have a yoke steering wheel. I mean, why are we doing this? What's going on with these screens for the driver? The design overall here, we have some lights on top, LED lights up top on the roof, LEDs in the back, LEDs of course in the front. You can see very chiseled looking design, almost like a Cybertruck van to me, with a little bit cooler styling, a little bit more personality than that. But then when we open this up, the interior looks to me absolutely fantastic for the passengers, not the driver so much. But the interior here, let's see if we can get the interior pictures again. It looks pretty sweet. I mean, it's a place where you definitely want to chill, relax. Here you can see the driver position again with these. I think it's one screen here, 2, 3 screens, 4 at least, if not 6. If this is separated into 3 screens as well, I'm not entirely sure. It kind of looks like it right here. But here is the lounge feel. I do love this, the louvered windows that we have with this almost very Japanese styling for this, looking absolutely stunning. You can fold it out like this, chill out, relax in the back. Looks like an extremely comfortable back seat for sure, with these type of materials, and if it looks high quality, it looks like a first class, business class, lounge to sit in. And this is the view you would have from the passenger seat, looking pretty nice. Its front end is dominated by angular LEDs, as is the rear. Between the front and rear is an elongated body that has some shades of Tesla's crazy Robovan concept. While no dimensions have been released, you can clearly tell this is a lot bigger than any Lexus model on sale right now. And you have 4 wheels in the rear that are significantly smaller than the front ones. So the proportions of this, I'm not entirely sure why we have 6 wheels on this. It definitely creates for a very unique design. But other than that, I mean, I would not want to call this an LS. I would want to call this something else. Up front, you have two futuristic-looking seats, two digital gauge clusters, a yoke-style steering wheel. There are then two additional rows of seats, which with those at the rear reminiscent of chairs you'll find in an international business class flight. And then we have the LS Coupe concept. Now this has at least a little bit more of this fluid vibe that I want to see from Lexus, even though it still feels too robotic for my taste. It definitely has this new Lexus ES styling to it. But the interior, the materials and the small details, I really appreciate this from Lexus. All these small details that we have in the interior with this wooden pattern here and ambient lighting. It looks absolutely gorgeous, the interiors of these. Even though you can see the rear end here, very, very static. The front end, very sharp. It's not dynamic one bit, in my opinion. You have this interesting solution for the tailgate where you can pull it out like a cabinet or something like that, like a drawer. And you still have the same type of integration of the screens. I don't know how this is supposed to work with dual screens because it looks like the front screen is covering half of the rear screen. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. And the minimalist interiors that we have for pretty much every single concept car these days is just not my type of style. But overall, this looks way better than the van. This has, you can see the fluid motions here. The roofline dipping down like this, but I still want to see this be a proper sedan and not this weird crossover like we have right here. So this takes the form of an incredibly sleek crossover and also emphasizes luxury, of course. The rear end reminds you of a mix of Polestar and Kia with these graphics that we have right here. Very interesting design. You have a tailgate that opens and extends outwards like the six-wheeled LS concept. There is a yoke wheel, two digital instrument clusters, and a large display on the passenger side. Behind the two front seats are large portrait-oriented screens for rear passengers. So you have screens in the back as well. You can see some more of this ambient lighting. Still love the wood texture that we have all over these concepts. Now, last but not least, we have the micro concept right here. You can see the images. Still this bamboo style in the interior, looking very cozy. One single seat, autonomous driving going on. Very welcoming, very warm interiors for all of these concepts. And I'm glad to see that even though it's very minimalistic, it still has a very welcoming interior. And I don't mind seeing, styles like these interiors going into Lexus production cars moving forward. Now, this is the front end of this. We have Lexus illuminated a lot of LEDs here, daytime lights, I do believe, and also down here. Again, extremely static design for this. Looks very, very strange, but at the same time, pretty cool for urban environments. You just have, single-seater autonomous vehicles like this. Pretty interesting. The cabin opens up like a jewel box, revealing a single seat, and like the other concept, plenty of wooden parts as well. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here. Have a look at these designs, what is going on with Lexus. We have the interiors for the van and the interior for the micro as well. I skipped out on the coupe because that feels like the most traditional looking design. These are the more crazy ones. So if we see anything like this going into production, it's going to be a pretty wild ride moving forward for Lexus when it comes to the exterior design specifically. Now looking at the van, what I don't like about these designs is just how static and sharp everything is. We don't have any sort of, look at the corners here. Extremely sharp corners. It feels like you're gonna cut yourself if you just touch this front end. There is no fluidity here. There is no radiuses between the key graphics. Something like this, to have a radius down here and, in this area as well. And a lot of flat panels everywhere on this vehicle. I mean, to me, it's a pretty cool concept. I have to give Lexus some credit for that, specifically when it comes to the interior design. And also the overall exterior, I thought it was going to look worse than this, to be honest, when I saw the initial teaser photos. This looks pretty cool still, even though it is very static. These taillights right here definitely feel Lexus still, but in a way brand new, in a completely new style. And we also have this line going up that we had in a lot of Lexus models, this lower section with this key line going down here, two-tone. We have the big glass roof here and also the blacked out features here that houses these interesting smaller rear wheels compared to the big front wheels with an illuminated center. I don't think I've seen illuminated wheels on any production car yet. But keep in mind, the Lexus has been pretty far ahead when it comes to light design and light innovation. So they might be the first company to actually implement some light inside of the wheels, even though it's going to be extremely expensive for the customer if they manage to mess those wheels up and have to repair them. Now, looking at the rear end, you have almost like a box sticking out in the rear. Still very static, but at the same time, the line flow is still intact, because we draw this line up here. You can see that this line goes in to this chamfer that we have here. So we do have a chamfer going in this area. Love to see that we still have at least some line flow back here. And the surfacing of this area, it's not completely flat. We still have a little bit of, reflections in here to make it a little bit more interesting, even though this front area and the graphics is overall what makes it feel like a static design. The surfacing still looks to have at least some sort of fluidity to it. And that is, all I can ask for in today's day and age, when everything is starting to become way more industrial and product designy for specifically automotive design. Just wanted to throw in this rear view. You can clearly see the rear view better here with this box sticking out. We have Lexus illuminated in the back, and looking at it, it definitely has the feel of an extremely luxurious van. When you look at this, it doesn't look like a cargo van or anything like that. It feels very high end. Now, looking at this micro concept, this looks like a credit card holder or something like that. It's still a very, I do appreciate the creativity from Lexus with all of these concepts. Even though it's not my personal preference of style from Lexus, it's still something pretty refreshing, to be honest. It's very static, but it's still something new that we haven't seen before. And you can see all the play around with graphics here. We still have this line that we have in the van as well, cutting down like this. And we have these slits, or whatever you want to call them, on the side, creating some interesting features. And you also have this metallic looking shell on the outside. It does have some nice curvature to it in the back right here, going into the rear end. And I do think it's a pretty cool looking design, to be honest, specifically if you were to have this as a autonomous transport unit or something like that. I also like that we have the taillights sticking out in this almost plexiglass style in the back end. And look at the squared off housing for the front wheels. I'm not sure what the turning radius for this is. It doesn't look like you can turn the wheels properly in tight areas, and that is probably something you want to be able to do in an urban environment. We have the rear view here as well, single wheel in the rear with this beautiful. I do like these chamfers that goes on in the lower section, and also creates a nice chamfer in this area. We have some more chamfers for this housing for the front end as well. So overall, the exterior designs of these, it's an interesting approach from Lexus, but would I still want to see some more dynamic vibes for the exterior? For sure. But looking at the interior design, and this is where it gets very, very tricky for me, because I don't understand. I can't see the functionality of these dual screens that we have going on here. It's a very, very strange design. As I said, it feels like the front screen is covering up the rear screen. So I don't know if this can rise up like this, but then it's going to cover the view in front of you. It's a very weird looking interior, and I've never been a fan of yokes either, even though I do understand the purpose of having a yoke here so that you can actually see what's going on in the screen. We have some physical buttons here. Very surprising to see physical buttons. You can see that we have almost like a head-up display inside of the screen in front of you. And I don't know if you control this with your phone or something like that, but it looks very cozy in here, and I would not mind spending time in this small little cabin and just cruise around a major city and just feel pretty secure from the outside world as this one takes me autonomously to my next destination. So overall, very interesting concepts from Lexus. We're going to see how much of this. I don't think a lot of this is going to transform into direct production vehicle the next 10 years or so, but this is probably looking forward, I would say, the next 10 to 15 years of where Lexus wants to take their designs when it comes to exterior design and their overall design DNA.